You know, I was going to get all poetic about horses and how beautiful creatures they are, but this is not a documentary, so it's 2 feet 8.5 inches tall by about 18 3/4 wide. Besides the cutting, what I'm going to show you in this video is, in a sense, the horse looks like it's coming out of the oval. Now I want to add to that effect, and you can do that with stain or paint. And I will show you that later in the video. This video will be about cutting the horse, but I wanted to let you know that it'll have a little more content than that. Another thing I want to point out, and I've made this mistake, so I'm going to try to stop doing it. A lot of times when I'm doing large projects, and I know not everybody does, I tend to cut out all the biggest pieces I can in order to reduce the weight of what I'm working on. But on the same note, doing that also, especially with something that has a border like this and a lot of open area, it can get caught on the corners of the table, and we don't want that. So the less wide open areas you have, the less things get caught on the table. So that's something I need to start working on, and just deal with the fact that it's going to weigh a little more, especially if I'm choosing on my own to make it a large project. But let's get started. First thing I do is cut away the perimeter. That way all this excess wood around here can reduce the weight there. Another thing I'd like to point out is a lot of people wonder how I'm able to do all these large pieces on such a tiny table on the saw. And the answer is a little roller table. I also have individual stands with just a single roller on them, and that helps to carry the hangover that hangs off the table. But anyway, just wanted to explain that, but let's get started cutting the perimeter. To point out that when you're doing a definite shape like an oval, it's okay to cut just shy of the line and sand to it using a mini belt sander or however you want to do it. That's what I do in order to fine-tune the oval. The interior, I'll show you a little, I guess you can call it a jig I made for keeping it consistent there. But there again, you know, keeping the blade on the lines easier said than done, but just know that you don't have to stay right on that line on the exterior or the perimeter of the oval. But you want to be careful around the nose of the horse and the ears, because you know they're part of the horse. I think I pretty much got it where I want it, but you can also use a traditional compass, not like a directional compass, you know, the circle maker. Come on now. But if you can keep it up along the edge, and you have that pencil on the other side to make a line, you know, you can use scribers, you can use an actual pencil. As long as you have the outside perimeter the way you like it, you go off of that to determine a consistent thickness or width border, in this case with an oval. And this will all make more sense as a visual, but for now we're just going to be cutting it, and I'll be showing you that until we get to the part where we're cutting all these big openings. Now, I will be cutting some of these interior cuts here. It's just the larger ones like this one and this one I'll be holding till last, for the reasons why I told you earlier about getting caught on the table. And we'll get back to it. I forget what this part is called on a horse. It's where the white patch is. I know there's a name for it, I just can't recall it right offhand. Now, I have breaks in the line, but because I'm likely going to stain the horse and paint the oval, contrary to what I may have said earlier, I was talking about stain, but I think I want to stain the horse, and I may get dangerously close to this being a piece that will fall out, but I want to leave that bare wood. And the reason why I get as close as I can is it lessens the odds of the stain bleeding into the area you don't want it. I'm sure there's other methods of doing that, but that's how I'm choosing to do it. Being that I've decided to use stain on the horse and paint on the oval, I have altered the design a little bit, and I just wanted to show that to y'all. You have the option of doing that if you buy the pattern, and I will put the pattern number on the screen right now. That's on my website, which will be in the description of the video. I don't know how well you can see these, but like right here, this point right here was originally not connected, but I decided to connect it, and here's an example of where it's not connected. It's to suggest a curl of hair or a wisp of hair. I'm going to zoom in and see if it helps any. See if this is going to be in frame. No, it's not, so I'm going to back up. Where am I? There we go. I'm going to connect these two to make it up a wisp of hair. And the reason why I do that is because when I stain, the stain can't go past that curve left behind by the blade. And I'm going to do that all the way across, probably up until about here, because the rest of it's the ear. That's not in frame either. But I'm going to do that to the mane all the way across until I get to about here, because after that is the ear, and won't have to mess with that. But I guess you can call it an executive decision. Any pattern you do, you don't have to do exactly the way it looks. Its lines are a suggestion. But because I'm staining and I don't want it to bleed through onto the areas that I want to leave blonde or natural wood, that's why I've decided to completely cut around where the hairs would ordinarily just be suggestive. So like right here, hopefully you can see this. I'm going to connect this right here, and a few other ones you might not be able to see. I'm going to try to zoom in, but it's very hard to see what's on the viewfinder. Now this could alter, like, I'm hoping other ones you can see, like right here, I have a pilot hole drilled because of the shadow that was left there, because I didn't have that drawn all the way down, but now that I do, I can eliminate most of that shadow and just use that pilot hole to continue the cut. And we got some more up here, which I'll probably do the exact same thing. And I don't know if all of these are showing up on frame, but I think you get the idea. And when I go to stain it, hopefully a lot of this will make a lot more sense. But some of these are shadows of the hair being further away from the head of the horse, so those shadows will remain. But I just wanted to explain that if you get the pattern and wonder why mine looks different, that's why I'm making this decision, for the sake of keeping the stain from bleeding where I don't want it to go. Just wanted to explain that. Now I'm going to get back to work. Now I'm going to turn off the camera and I'm going to analyze where the hair is in relation to the ears, so that I can also alter that to get as close as I can to the ears without it breaking, hopefully. And I will turn the camera back on when I have made those changes, if any. Well, I've made the changes and I'll show them to you, but I may be risking breakage here in doing so, but I'll point them out. This right here, I'm gonna have to alter the way the hairs look like right here, because the hair comes up next to the ears, so I'll alter this a little bit from what you see. Hopefully this all shows up on camera. I extended this line over to here so that it goes almost to the end of the ear, and that separates the mane from the ear, and therefore less chance of when I'm staining the ear, it'll lessen the chance of getting into the hair. I'm going to leave the hair blonde. Also extended this line from here to here, and if I had gone all the way over, this area would be very likely to fall out. This is going to be the scary area when I go to cut out all these pieces. Now when it comes to stabilizing pieces that you think might vibrate out, unless you're trying to hurt yourself on a blade, you're not going to. You can, if you want to stabilize a piece as you're cutting it, you can get right up next to it. Let's say I'm cutting this piece right here. If you want to stabilize that piece, you put your finger on there, and if you have too much of a hole here or no plate in there or anything, use a business card or a playing card, and that'll keep anything small from vibrating down into the hole or breaking completely off and going down through there. But there again, I trust the stability of the piece, so I'm just going to use as is. But there again, a playing card or a business card taped into place with painter's tape, or however you want to do it, can give you that zero clearance where nothing will fall through the hole in the table. Alright, this is the jig I was telling you about. It's very roughly made, but it's got this for riding along the edge of the piece. Let me zoom out so I can show you that. You put whatever utensil you want to use, depending on where you want it, and determine where you want that line, and you use, let me get this out of the way for the sake of the visual, and zoom in again. Again, you have your writing utensil in one of these holes depending on how thick you want it. I'm going to use the compass. This is why I don't have a utensil in here to show you. But you just ride along here with your writing utensil in there, and that piece on the side here is what keeps it from going anywhere. And you just slide it along with your writing utensil and make the line. So that's how you make a consistent width border around whatever. And this is just, I don't have plans for this or anything. It's just something I threw together. But I went to Walmart and got a compass. When you ask for a compass, they're looking for a directional compass because nobody uses these anymore. And pink is the only color they had, or pink and purple. But not my first choice in colors, but what can you do? But I'm going to try to get a better camera angle, and we will go about doing this. I've decided it's such a cheap compass that it won't lock into place, so I'm going to have to use two hands, so it's probably not going to be worth recording, but I'm going to give you the premise of what I'm doing. Same thing as that jig does. Set the point where you want it, and the little point that's here is writing the edge. It's not sitting on top of the piece. That's why you'll notice that's at two different angles, because I want to ride this along the edge. I'm sorry for the lack of light here, folks. Ride this along the edge and have that scribe me a line. I wanted to use a pen, but the pen won't fit in there. But I'm going to do this off camera because I can't get anything to look good on the camera, and that's just how I'm going to do it. But I think I'm going to have faith that my viewers understand what's going on. If not, ask me in the comments. Again, I'm just going to ride it along here and make a consistent thickness or width of a border, and that's how we're going to make sure the oval is the same width all the way around. Now, being that I draw or trace my patterns directly onto the wood, this is where the jig and the compass idea work for me. You'll see, drawing with my hand, it wasn't real stable, but using the compass, I was able to scribe a more consistent line, and this is one of the more extreme areas that I was off the line, so that's where drawing that line helped me. And let me zoom out so you can see, other than the pieces that involve the oval, the horse is done. But let me try to get this in a better angle. We got the piece here, this whole piece here, and this whole piece down through here. But and then we'll be working on the border. Now let me zoom in and show you things I talked about earlier. I told you I was going to alter the hair around this ear so that I could have a better stain separation or paint. And so I've totally done away with one of the hairs that was right here, and I'm just going to go down to here and pull out here for the hair. Now these lines here are to further separate the oval from the horse, as well as be a hindrance to stain and or paint bleed over. into the oval, because it, you know, can't go past the gap once that's cut out. So let me finish cutting it out, and then we'll move to staining and or painting. Okay, so we got it taped off, and as you can see, the oval is the only part exposed, and I pressed very tightly with the painter's tape where everything met the oval. Now the premise of making a shadow, if you look at most shadows, let's say I'm going to be painting this red. Now the shadow on a red would be a darker version of red. So I guess you could call it maroon or brick red or whatever. I don't know what the paint colors are called. But the shadow on red there again would be a darker red. Or you could, now if you happen to not have red available or a darker red available, you can very lightly mist black. Just do it from a distance, because once it's there, it's there. I mean, yes, you can sand it off, but it's a big pain in the hind end. But I'm going to do the first coat with red, and I don't have anything darker than the red I'm about to use, so I will have to use the misting black option. So here we go. And I say misting because I use spray paint. Now there's no particular brand that I choose over another. I just get whatever I can. So we're just gonna put the red on, and the face is really the only part that's important, but if you want, you could try to get the sides, and that's what I taped off for, was to try to avoid paint getting on anything else if I try to get the inside and outside edges. But it's up to you, because as long as the face is colored, it'll still pop. Now, a lot of people don't like to paint wood, so you can just kind of mist the red as well, and you can still see the wood grain through it. And I apologize if my arm gets in the way while I'm doing this, but I gotta be able to reach everything. Right now I'm just doing the face. Now this particular paint is wanting to spit a little bit. I don't know if you can see that or not, because there again I have a tiny viewfinder. But you can do the layers of paint as thick as you would like or as thin as you would like. I'm trying to be somewhat consistent, and this left side's a little bit light, so I'm going to go a little bit more there, but hope the wood grain still shows through. And then I'm going to go in and concentrate on the inside and outside edges. I just spray painted my shirt. This will also test your ability to catch all the areas you want to mask off, because if you don't, you'll find overspray red somewhere on the area you didn't want, but we'll find that out when I get done here. Okay, that's done, and I'm gonna let this dry some. Now, if you chose to do this with a brush-on paint or whatever, make sure you use the same style of paint when you do the shadow, and I'll explain the premise of shadows as well. But make sure you use the same type of paint. Let's say you're using a latex brush-on paint, you use a latex shadow color as well, because sometimes different types of paint will have a chemical reaction, a little peel, bubble, crack, whatever. Okay, I'm gonna let this dry, and I wish I had a maroon, but I don't. but I think we can get away with sprinkling with black. But let me reposition the camera and then I'll explain shadows in it. Now when I say I want to explain lights and shadows, that's not to insult your intelligence, it's merely just to point out the thinking when you're producing the shadows. And you can do it just like this, you don't have to have shadows, but I told you at the beginning that this would sort of add to the three-dimensional look. But okay, first thing you want to do is choose where your light source is, not your literal light, but you know, the light of the viewer. Now I'm going to say the light's coming from this way, so if the light's coming from this way, the shadow is going to be on the right. Best example is my hand. You see my hand on the paper, the shadow is to the right, and luckily my actual light is to the left, so that's kind of helping my point here. But you just, I don't know what the hell to say here. You have to be consistent once you pick that where the light source is coming from, because if you have to, make a little miniature version of this, you know, just the shape of the horse's head and the shape of the oval without all the detail, and hold it up, put it next to a light source, and you'll determine where those shadows would be. For me, they're going to be to the right of everything, so that would include right here to the right of the left ear, and as well as to the right of the right ear. Now to make it look like a believable shadow, it's got to be at the same angle and or shape of what the shadow is being cast from. And I got to move the camera. I usually turn the camera off to do this, but I'm going to just do it here. But same here, it's going to be off to the right of the snout. And I'm probably going to go up about half an inch to an inch, somewhere in there, but remember, you only want to do it to the right or it'll look kind of fake. If you just want to make it pop for the sake of popping, you can do it on both sides of the object inside the oval, but that's up to you. I like to just do it that way. But anyway, we're going to do it to the right of the snout and to the right of both of the ears I showed you. Remembering to keep the shape of what you're shadowing in mind. I'm just going to use a piece of paper to do that. Now, there's not a lot of shape in that little bitty area going through the oval, or over the oval, so I'm just going to use a sheet of paper here. Yeah, I'm going to go about this far for the shadow, and I'm just going to mist it with black, and I may change my mind and go completely dark, but I don't know if that would look right, so I'm just going to mist it till I feel comfortable with it, being careful not to get it anywhere else on the oval frame. I'm going to turn off the camera so I can shake up the black paint. Here we go. Well, I got lucky. I thought I didn't have a maroon. I found one that's a Rust-Oleum gloss colonial red, so I'm going to mist that at first to see how I like it, and then if I like it, I'll just put it in about the same consistency as I did the base color. But here goes. It may not make much of a difference, so I may still end up having to go with black, but we'll find out as soon as this dries. Now see, that's too close to the same color as red, so I may still mist it with black. You want to find the best contrast within the same color palette. Like some shade of red as dark as you can get and it still look red. But there again, I thought this would work, and it did not. So, but I'm not perfect, and that's why I don't edit out things like this. Now that does look darker, but I don't think it's enough of a contrast for the purpose I'm going for to make it pop. So I'm going to mist it with black as soon as I can. Actually, I take that back. I may even go with brown, because in a sense, to me, that would be because that's closer to a maroon than black would be. But you could, there again, use black. My indecisiveness here is actually a problem, because once I take off all that masking, it'll be a pain in the rear to remask it. And the more this dries, I'm thinking it might work as the pop, but I may mist it at least half that distance. And I think I'm going to go with brown because it's closer to red than black is. So let me do that, and if I regret it, I'll just go back over it with the colonial red gloss, which happens to be Rust-Oleum. The original red I used, I don't know where the can is. It was a Krylon gloss, and it was called red pepper or safety red, if these shades matter to you, if you're trying to be exact. I'm really hoping I don't regret going over this with brown. But here we go. Again, I'm going to go over about half of it just to see. I think that might actually work. No, but there's, I should have. Actually, I'm gonna risk it and do it from a distance and kind of mist it because I don't like the sharp edge going from the brown to the maroon, and I may just redo the maroon to fix that. Matter of fact, let me do that. I'm gonna change my mind in real time. I'm kind of just misting it from a distance, and I may change my mind on the brown and completely cover it up, but I'm misting the brown as well. I can still see that transition, so I'm going to have to paint it all maroon, let that dry, and then try to mist in the brown, or just stick with the bloody maroon. No pun intended. Luckily this is the shadow portion, so I can get away with putting it on thick. I don't guess the wood grain would have to show through on that part. Now you're not going to have a shadow where the neck of the horse is coming through, because that's behind the oval, obviously. We're going to do by this here, and then by this here, and then we'll be done with the shadow. And I don't know if I edited it out by this time, but I was wrestling with different color ideas, whether it be brown, maroon, black, and I found the maroon, and I'm hoping it's a good enough suggestion of shadow to work. Being that the beginning of this video was the premise. The premise was making it pop with shadow, but I need to protect the side here that I don't want to get the maroon on. Okay, I've protected the part I don't want to get the maroon on, and since I'm only spritzing it to put the layers on, again, we want to have this piece of paper, or whatever you're using to mask off, you want to have it at the same angle as that ear is, and there's painter's tape over it, and I've sort of painted over it, but hopefully you can see it. And I'm going to try to be consistent with how far away I was. I think it's right about there. And let's hope that works. Now, if some of it slightly bleeds under that piece of paper, it may look more realistic. I don't know, but I guess we're all going to find out together. And I may get paint on my hands, but there's worse problems in the world. As with the one I did in the beginning, I didn't realize that it does have a contrast until I let it dry a little bit. I thought it was just because it looked wet, but it actually does have a shadow. Now, right now, you're not seeing that pop because there's painter's tape and everything over the ear. But okay, this one's almost straight up and down as far as the angle. And we're going to go about that thick, and we're going to protect the part of the oval we don't want to go over. And I also got to be careful over there, but I don't have any more pieces of paper near me, and I've created an obstacle course in order to go get more, so let's just be careful here. Plus, I'm close enough, there probably won't get any overspray over there. And as far as I'm concerned with the oval, I'm done. I really hope the maroon works. If not, I'll figure out a way to block off other areas and go with misting of a black. But I'm pretty confident the maroon may work. I won't know the real effect, and neither will you, until I take off all the masking after everything's dried. Okay, so we have the red border done, and I think it did relatively well in showing the shadows. I'll show a closer up picture here shortly. For the sake of comparing, this is the picture I worked from to make this horse, but I don't like the plain color of the halter, so I'm not real sure what color I'm going to do that. But the reason why I'm showing you the source picture is I'm going to be very careful in masking off that halter and all the metal pieces that go with it so that I can stain the horse. I'm probably going to go with, I don't know if it's called bay or chestnut. I'm going to go with either red oak or I can't remember the other one I have. Red oak or Sedona red by Minwax. This one is Sedona red 222, and this one is red oak 215. Now, earlier in the video I talked about the white portion on the head. That is called a blaze by some people, or a stripe by others. Because when I talked about getting that area to leave blonde or natural wood, I didn't know at the time what that was called, but it's a blaze or a stripe. And the coloring of horses is different. I don't have the research right in front of me, but you'll notice the hair on this one. Well, maybe you won't. The hair on this one is the same color as the horse. There is a name for that, but the research is not right in front of me, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I don't know if it will look good, because I did take the time to cut around the mane in order to separate. So I may go with, I may even just mist it black, because there are horses that have black manes, of course. Some have blonde manes. I'm going to see how that looks, but I'm not sure. I may go with a early American color stain. I may stain that some color, the mane. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure that I would like the look of having it the same color as it is in this original source photo. But what I'm going to do now is take the time to mask off all of here, and then I'm going to do it sloppily at first, and then use a razor blade to fine tune where I've done that, because I don't want to stain anything that shouldn't be stained. As far as the halter, I'm thinking I may go with red to tie it in with the oval here. But there again, being that it has the Southwest design on it, I want to find a color that won't clash too bad with the red on the backer. In other words, if I do the halter red, I'm going to paint the backer black mainly, but behind the Southwest designs I want to pick a color that won't clash and look too weird. But that being said, I'm going to go back to masking. As you can see, when I painted, I covered every square inch of bare wood to keep paint from getting on the main subject being the horse. But with stain, I'm not spraying that on, I'm brushing it on, so I didn't have to cover this part, didn't have to cover here, because I'm not just going to go ape crap with the brush. Now this area here is this area here. So that's why it's exposed. But the rest of it is just because I know I'm not going to be sloppy with the brush. But I'm going to leave this blaze covered with tape even after when I'm done staining, because I want it to be as blonde as possible or as natural. Even if I decide to clear coat this whole thing with spray clear coat, I don't want that to be affected, because I want it to look as natural as possible. And if there's another area that's light, like the light in the eye, I haven't decided if I'm going to stain it real light or if I'm going to leave it bare. But since it's not bright white in a horse's eye, I'm going to allow the clear coat to dim it a little bit. So there again, that's the only reason this piece is going to remain taped until completion. Oh, by the way, the eyelashes are also usually the same color as the mane, so I'm going to go a little lighter with the eyelashes if I can figure out where in my design that those are. Oh, there again, you see, I changed my mind. I got to thinking about if I were to go with a chestnut colored horse, it would be pretty, but it would probably clash with a black background. And yes, I could choose another background color, but I think black would show the best contrast. And I need to look up and see what this color horse is called. You could say buckskin, but it's more of a red, so it's not so much a buckskin colored horse. So probably by now you will see it on the bottom of your screen. Hopefully you were paying attention before I stained it and saw the different shades that the wood was. That's why some of the stain looks darker in some areas. I thought about trying to fade in certain areas, but it wasn't really worth it. And but one advantage to having this light colored stain is even if I slightly got it into the paint, you couldn't tell because it's such a light stain, and I could just wipe it right off. But I'm going to unmask it and we'll see how the blonde mane looks, and I think that could look potentially pretty. Let me untape all this and we'll see the final product, not counting the backer. Okay, we got that, and I think I like it, but and I know I keep doing this, but I don't know. I think if I do red on the halter, it could be red overkill. And I know as you're watching this, 50,000 of you, well, not like I'm going to get that many views, but you know what I mean. A lot of you probably have colors in mind, but right offhand, I can't think of a dang color. And I don't know why I care so much about the specific color of what the halter should be, because there's a lot of colors of halters out there. I could even go with a green. I mean, God, I don't know. I don't want it to look Christmassy by going green. And yes, some of you that know me know I think too much. I'm overly analytical, but in an artistic sense, I don't want it to clash, but I also don't want to have an overkill of red. So you may find out just shortly after I do what color that halter is going to be, but regardless, we're going to have black behind the whole thing. But anyway, I like the way the blonde mane looks. I'm not terribly thrilled about the eyelashes, but you know, that's the way they are. I went ahead and colored the reflection on the eye the same color as the thing because he does have a brown eye. Now there is different hardware on here. I may do that. I may brush on gold there, silver here, gold on the other ones. And I know some people say, man, don't paint wood, but you know, I'm trying to go for somewhat realism on here. But Lord only knows at this point what color I'm going to do that halter. I guess you'll find out when I come back. Well, I could show you the finished piece, but I'm not going to till the end. This is the backer. I'm going to paint it black.